Okay, could someone please explain to me why this Gabbie Petito story is a national news story at this point? I mean, don't get me wrong. For those of you who haven't heard it first, Gabbie Petito, she's apparently one of these van life influencers who's traveled across the country. You know, went missing. Body was found outside Grand Teton National Park, and now they're looking, I guess, for her boyfriend. Right? This is an awful story. It's a sad story, but it should be a local story. Right? There's no reason this should take precedent in the media over the things happening in the world. And I know people like Joy Reid has gone out there and said, this is a case of the missing white woman syndrome, which has some validity to it. Let's be honest. No one talks about the disasters that are happening in places like Chicago and Detroit. No one's talking about all the murder that happens there. No one's talking about all the kidnapping that happens there. No one's talking about all the abuse that happens there. But of course, this person, it's on everything. It's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's on, any news site. It's on just the mainstream cable in general. Turn on Fox News, CNN, it doesn't matter. They're talking about this case just nonstop. And don't get me wrong, I understand this is a symptom of the fact that the modern news system is more just theater, right? It's not about anything that's really important happening. It's about what gets clicks, what gets people to watch. And of course, a case where an influencer goes missing, oh, well, we have this mystery. And so, all these people try to get together because they, it's compelling of a story, but it's not really important news. Like, not to downplay what happened, right? Obviously, so terrible what happened to her, so awful for her family. I get it. But right now, we have real issues happening. We have the terrible lockdowns in COVID. We have the crisis at the border happening right now. We still have the fallout of the terrible Afghan withdrawal. And we have protests popping up all over the world when it comes to authoritarian lockdowns happening in places like the UK, Canada. And I mean, people, of course, have seen tons of videos of what's been going on in Australia. We have real news to talk about. And instead, the entire media cycle is dominated by this one person going missing. Now, I personally think it's probably, not what he's like planned, of course, but in the sense the media sees an escape, right? They see, hey, here's something we can talk about, so we don't have to be mentioning all the stuff that's happening on the border. We don't have to mention all the stuff that's happening with Biden. We don't have to mention, the disaster when it comes to inflation. Instead, well, we can just keep people hooked on this sob story. And it is a sob story. It is a true sob story. It's a mystery, right? Ooh, what happened to her? Oh, her boyfriend's gone? Oh, and his family won't tell us where he is. Oh, we need to dig deep and figure this out. It gets people's attention and distracts them from the real issues at hand. And this is what the media always does, right? The media always tries to distract from the important issues and instead puts forward whatever, either whatever narrative they can get by with, and if they can't find a good narrative to get behind, they'll sit there and pull something else out to distract everyone from what's really going on. This story is a distraction. This story, again, sad story, terrible story, should be a local story. There's no reason I should turn on Fox News 3 different times and every time see them talking about the same damn thing. Gabbie Petito, Gabbie Petito, Gabbie Petito. We get it. Woman went missing, body found, they're on the hunt for her boyfriend. And I know people want to say, well, she was an influencer. She was an influencer, so she gets a lot more attention. You're really telling me if this was during, I don't know, the Trump administration and they had all these stories they're railing against him with, that they would go, hey, you know what, hey, an influencer went missing. Hey, why don't we report on that for, a solid, full week here and just not talk about anything happening in the administration? No, of course they wouldn't. This is strictly just theater is all it is. They know they can distract people away from the real issues that are happening. And again, what Joy Reid, is going on right now saying, why aren't they caring about what's happening to, the people of color, right? They're not going to talk about the missing black women out there and all the stuff happening in inner cities. And she's right. They aren't. Why? Because there's Democrats who control these areas, right? The media does not want to attack Democrats. And when you sit and report on every single thing that happens in inner cities, that's what happens. So instead, you got to find this, mystery story instead. But I'll ask this, what's more important? The fact that dozens of people are murdered every single week in Chicago, if not more than that, every single week in Chicago, or one person's gone missing in the mountains. I mean, seriously, what's the bigger story? The fact that dozens of people have been killed in 1 week in a city, or one person goes missing? The fact that what happens in Chicago isn't on our news stations, and the fact they don't put that out everywhere, is just appalling in itself. The disaster that is Chicago should be reported on every single day. I think there was 1 week, I guess, where the murders actually exceeded the deaths from COVID, right? Just insane murder rates in Chicago. Yet we don't talk about it. Why? Because, well, it's Democrat held. It's a Democrat stronghold. And why aren't we now talking about, of course, what's happening on the border? I mean, we're right now being flooded with migrants. I mean, they're literally walking in and out, in and out, in and out, like there is no border in the first place. We aren't talking about it, though. They actually stopped people from flying drones above what's happening at the border. They stopped people from being able to get actual drone footage of what's happening over the border. And no one wants to talk about how that's, of course, stopping the press from doing their job. The people who actually want to report on real issues. Nah, instead, we're going to be distracted for a solid week with the Gabbie Petito story while they try to get their ducks in a row with what's happening over at the border and, of course, what's happening in Afghanistan. I don't know. It just seems to me that's pretty... It's being used. It just seems to me like it's being used. I get it. People's eyeballs go to these mystery stories all the time. True crime is like the biggest or one, the biggest sections when it comes to most videos and streaming services, right? I think it's stupid. What do you really think you're going to solve it? I mean, come on, give me a break here. It's just people are obsessed with these kind of mysteries, and the media knows this, and they're going to run with it because, for one, it makes them money, and two, it distracts people from the actual issues. Again, sad case, terrible thing. Not demeaning what happened to this poor girl. What I am saying is that there is no reason this should be a national story. It should be a local story. People should be trying to figure out what happened on the local end. I don't see at all what it has to do with anything involving the country as a whole. Yet again, it is on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. It's on everything on Facebook, Twitter. It is dominating almost every single news source over one person going missing. I don't know. Just seems kind of strange to me. Either way, what do you think? Leave a comment below. If you've enjoyed this video, of course, leave a like. And if you aren't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Either way, we'll see what happens with it all, and we'll see you again real soon.